side. In this case, provided that the user keeps the browser open, so provided that the user does not just close the browser brutally, you will be called in the, if you go to the payment initiation API, you will receive a call to the, the initiating party return URL. You see this exactly where you have the mouse. So this URL that you provide when you initiate, when you call this API, this will be called back. The other possibility is that the payer just does nothing, so just stares at the browser, or maybe just close it after a while without actually complete the process. In this case, the transaction will end in a status called timeout. So in this case, you will not receive any callback, but it's up to you after the expiration of the transaction, which is something that you decide. It's the duration millis parameter that you pass to this same API. So it's up to you when the duration millis has expired to call the payment result API to retrieve the final status, because you are sure that after the duration millis has expired, so after the timeout that you specified has expired, you are sure that you will get a final status for the transaction. So yeah, there is no, you will get no notification in case the user logs in or fails to log in. So you will just have a notification when the transaction reached the final status.
Okay, got it. So that we need to manage at our end, like this. Got it. Normally, how the reconciliation report will be shared with us, settlement report or something, if I talk about.
Reconciliation, you mean, when we talk about reconciliation, we usually talk about the reconciliation that you do on your side and that your merchants do on their side. So in that case, it's totally up to you how you it's totally up to you what kind of arrangement you have with your merchants. If you provide some,
I just want to add here, because we actually, as a merchant, we will be acting this in digital wallet. We have our own reconciliation process. We do have the logic, but what we need from you is the report, the settlement report that will be reporting all the transactions that are successful, so we can do our reconciliation. Do you have what kind of reports do you have?
Sorry, Alberto, I just jump in just to clarify one point that is very important.
Yeah.
So we have visibility about all the MyBank transactions as a solution manager, but we do not have visibility of the underlying payment between our participants. So we are not able to provide you the list of payments so that you can reconcile on your side. Okay, this information, I mean, the only way for you to reconcile the MyBank payments is to match the MyBank transactions that you can download from our gateway platform with the payments that you with the bank statement, let's say, from your bank.
Yeah, so the process is we go manually to downloading the files we want to use from your gateway. It's not automatically this process on your side. You don't have possibility to send files through an SFTP, right?
No, not at the moment. It's not something we have in place.
No, so we will need this access to the gateway. I guess probably this will be also needed to our payments operational teams. They will have access to this portal. They will download these files and they can upload it on our site in our system. So this is also a working solution for us. I just needed to confirm what is.
And keep in mind that, as Gabriele said, so the information you will get when you download what we call the MyBank transactions data from this web interface that you will have access to, the information you get from there is the same that you get when you call the API payment result. So it's the same information. There's nothing more. And in particular, there is no information about the payment because, as Gabriele said, the payment will go directly to your account. So we do not have any visibility on it.
We can integrate this API and get the information through the API.
Yes, so for each transaction, you will call the API payment result anyway. That will give you all the information of the transaction. So you already have the information for each individual transaction there. Then, if you want to have a nice Excel file with the list for 1 month, for example, then okay, then you can use the web interface. You can put initial date and date. You can have the list, and then you can download the Excel file. But as content data that you will find there is nothing more than you already have in your through the API.
Yeah, what about other transactions like, for example, taxes, any fees, and reference to the bank account that will be receiving the money? We need to have this reference so we can, on our side, we are matching totals, we are calculating, accounting all the type of transactions, not just the transactions that are successfully processed, but also the adjustments and any fees.
But so the transactions that are not successful, you will also see both in the web interface and both through the API, because for each transaction you will have to call at least once the API to retrieve the status, the final status of the transaction. At least once you will have to do, otherwise you are blind. You have no idea how the transaction ended. So also in the case the transaction was not successful, you will receive a status which will be, I don't know, canceled by the user or timeout or error. For those transactions, but what I expect that your account will be, not I expected, your account will not be touched, so you will not receive any money. There will be no, yeah. For the authorized, you will receive the money, but usually the payments are done in such a way that you don't have any fee on the receiving account. As far as I know, I don't know, Gabriele, Paolo, if you know more about this. So normally the amount, another point to maybe which is not clear. So each MyBank transaction has an attribute which is the amount. So the amount you see, and of course it is specified by you when you initiate the transaction. This amount is the actual amount that your account will receive. So there is, in other words, if there are some fees applied by the bank of the payer, but you will not see them. It's part of the contract between the payer's bank and the payer. So you will not have any view on that. So if you start a MyBank transaction and you say the amount is 100 euro, you will receive exactly 100 euro on your account.
Yeah.
Then it's up to you, of course, if you want to charge your merchant.
About fees, I mean the fees that my bank will charge us as a client. Because at the end of the day, you will pay to our bank. Yeah.
So that's part of the billing. Then I leave Paolo to.
For the billing, we will send you a PDF every month. So on a monthly basis, you will receive an amount, and with that you will have to pay. So basically, either you decide to have an SDG, so basically a direct debit based on the payment order that you receive, or you just make a payment every time.
Okay, yeah. So we are paying the taxes separately.
That's separate, yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, and because you were asking about reconciliation, so in the PDF file that you will receive, you will not see each and every transaction. Okay, you will just see a total. That obviously, I mean, you can calculate yourself based on the transactions that you make on a monthly basis if the amount is correct or not. And if you need more details, we can send you an Excel sheet based on your request, but it's not going to be that, you know, every month you will receive the list of transactions that you made with us. For
Yeah,
this,
so
you can, as my colleague said, for this you can have access to our interface platform, basically a MyBank Gateway interface. And there you can see MyBank transactions. You will not see the payments, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then there will be no there will be no reference from this portal, your portal, and this file at the end of the month that we are paying taxes.
No, you cannot cross-check. I mean, you obviously,
yeah,
if you see that, I mean, when you make your calculations, obviously all the transactions have to be there, right? If you want to have the correct numbers. So you can use that to make your calculations, but there will be no cross-check reference that you can use, okay? So no ID, no TFR or something like that. If that is your question.
Yeah, thank you. Got it, thanks.
Yeah.
I'll discuss this with our internal reconciliation team.
Okay.
Okay, then I just one thing. So in the document, I can see you have mentioned that that remittance information will be there in the bank statement or the transaction details in the bank statement. Will this end-to-end ID which we send in the payment request, will that be also there?
So this depends a little bit on the bank. So the end-to-end ID that you send will definitely be in the Paxate. So it will be quoted as it is, as you send it in the Paxate. If it is displayed or not in the account statement to the user, it depends a bit on the bank. My experience is that usually no, it is not displayed end-to-end ID. They only display the remittance information, but it's really it's part of the standard policy of the bank, how they build the account statement and also for general SCT, not only for MyBank, I mean. But the important thing is that it will be definitely part of the Paxate, so of the SCT that you receive. For that, yes, end-to-end ID will be there. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. Just for everybody know, I started the recording of the meeting as a request by, I don't remember who requested, but I started the recording, if everybody agree.
Thanks, Marco. Yeah. Okay, my next question was, so somewhere I read this SCT for fiscal benefit is requested. What is meant by that?
Good question. Yeah, so this refers to a specific thing that exists in Italy. So in Italy, some kind of purchase benefit of some fiscal reduction because, for example, you are buying some new windows that are good for the environment, which are good that let's say will let you spare energy in your house, and so you will benefit for some fiscal reduction. So it is something that was it's an optional feature in MyBank. For the moment, no bank has implemented it. So for the moment, let's say you can forget about this. We are currently working to relaunch this, but it will come. So for the moment, you can forget about this. So it means that your merchant will have to provide if he knows that, or if his user, if his client tells him that he's buying something that is part of this fiscal benefit law, when you start the transaction, you will have to pass a couple of more information, a couple of additional information, which is mainly the tax number of the merchant and one code which qualifies the merchant for the government, let's say, if it's a physical person or a legal entity. And then it will be up to the payer's bank to let the payer fill the other information, but you can forget about this for a moment.
Okay, thank you. So I was just reading about this duration millis, though I understood. I will just tell my understanding, just confirm me whether that is correct or wrong. So duration millis is nothing. Once a user is redirected to the buyer bank, so from that counter will start, right? So if you mention.
No, in fact, it starts from the moment when you invoke the payment initiate API. So if you invoke the payment initiate API at 11:54 00 and you say duration millis and you say it's 10 minutes, then it means that the user will have 10 minutes from that moment when you invoke the payment. Yeah.
Okay.
The point is that when you invoke this API, so if everything goes well, you will receive the redirection URL in the response, and then you will immediately redirect the payer to the bank. So in fact, you can think about it as the time that the user has available from the moment he lands on his bank to complete the process, because in fact it will be just a few milliseconds later with respect to your invocation of this API. So it's practically the same.
Okay, yeah, user flow wise, from UI wise, it will look like once it is redirected to there, but in backend one, the moment we initiate that, invoke that payment initiate API, it will start.
Yep.
Okay. This end-to-end ID is nothing, the unique transaction ID which we will pass, Paysafe will pass to MyBank, right?
Let's say you're not even required to make it unique. The goal, it depends a little bit on the usage that you do of this field. So in principle, the idea is that it will be unique because it might be one of the identifiers that you use to identify a transaction. It is not required by our protocol, so it is not required that it is unique. You can certainly use it, treat it as unique per transaction, and then you can use it to identify each transaction. Yes.
So no validation at your end for the uniqueness, but yeah, exactly. From our side, it's the ID which we pass.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're also mentioned, like if you go to party sub ID and all, initiating party sub ID and those things. So those are the Paysafe merchants. So we will onboard some merchant and all. So those sub IDs need to be passed under this field, right? Because it talks about sub merchant, merchant trading name, and all those things. So those are the information of the merchant of the Paysafe here. I will, if I talk, right? The end beneficiary, final beneficiary, right?
So yes, it's correct. So the sub ID is just a code or some identifier for your merchant. It is not something you need to onboard on our side. So it's basically we will just receive this code. We will use it for statistics mainly, but it's not something that you have to pre-register on your side. So you are free to onboard your merchants, to make up or to assign a code to them, and then you can pass this code in this field. And you mentioned the trading name. Also, the same applies to the trading name. So this, of course, is as more of an applicative value in the process, because the trading name will be also shown to the payer, of course. And so it's very important that the trading name reflects something that the payer understands and knows and creates confidence also in the payer that he is really paying to whom he believes he's paying.
Yeah.
So the sub ID on the other end is just a code. It will also go into the Paysafe, but it's not something that the payer will see on the authorization page. So it's really meant to be a code.
Does merchant name will be shown to the user, the pay? Because I have seen like it was written to avoid confusion, it's better to pass some merchant trading name only in that field. So
sorry, no, I didn't get the question.
So does this merchant name? So normally, wherever the start with anything which is start with merchant, where there we need to provide like merchant IBAN and all, right? So there the information of Paysafe bank account, like here skill account will come. But in merchant name, it is written like to avoid confusion for the payer, it is recommended to set the attribute to the same value as merchant trading name.
Yeah.
So does this merchant name and merchant trading name both shows up in the payer UI in the bank page?
Yep. So this is a bit tricky. So the point is that the merchant name, or in the MyBank scheme, the merchant name will be the creditor name of the Paysafe. So the payer's bank will instruct the payment compiling the creditor name in the Paysafe using this value, the merchant name. The payers at UI level, the payer's bank is supposed to show the merchant trading name. So this means you might set as merchant trading name something, as we said, that the payer knows, so the commercial name that is used to. And as merchant name, you could set something which reflects the account. Of course, I assume that like most PSPs like you do, you will collect all the money in one single account, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So this means that if you strictly respect the specification, in theory, merchant name, it should always be your name because the account will be at your name. But to avoid confusion, it is best if you fill this using the same value as the trading name, because some bank, in fact, some payer bank will show this, will show the merchant name. So imagine one client of your or one of your merchant who is buying, and he suddenly sees on the authorization page, you're paying to Paysafe. But he will say, but no, I'm paying to the merchant who is, I don't know his name. So it would create confusion if you pass this. So the best is if you use the same value. So the commercial name of the merchant, use the same for merchant trading name and merchant name. Of course, this means that when you receive the payment on your account, so you will have an incoming SCT in your account where the creditor name is not Paysafe, but it is the name of the merchant. So this must be also let's say, checked with the bank. So usually banks accept, and in any case, incoming SCT, but some of them will have, checks which, when they find that there is a mismatch between the creditor name and the account holder's name, they might have a manual procedure who are triggered. So you may want to check with your bank that this is okay for them, but this is usually not a problem. I mean.
Okay. Also, I saw there is two things, like there is a status and transaction status, but when I saw in the API, so I saw that transaction status is which is getting returned. So I guess status is not applicable for that.
Yeah,
How I standard MyBank flow, right?
Yeah, I understand your question. Yeah, so the point is that we have this data item section in the documentation where we list all the attributes. And this is valid for all APIs altogether. But of course, you then have to look at each API So you will find in the API you are interested in, you will find the name of the attribute, and then you have to look up the attribute here. So yes, to be honest, I don't remember anymore if in the payment result, if it's called transaction status, then it's fine. Yes. So you have to look at that.
So these are the only status, right? Normally this is pending, authorized.
Yes, these are the values that you can receive from the payment result. And normally, if you use it in the correct way, you will never receive pending, because you are only supposed to invoke the payment result either after the timeout. So in this case, you will receive a timeout probably, or when the famous initiating party return URL is invoked. So in that case, you will receive the one of the other. So in theory, you will never receive pending. But yes, indeed, if you, for example, if you can do it while you are testing, if you invoke the payment result just 2 seconds after creating the transaction, you will receive pending, because of course the transaction is pending at that moment.
Sorry, I see that in your list of questions, there is one related with the payment method, if it's guaranteed or not. And I see that you classified as guaranteed. So actually, can you explain to me exactly what you mean with guaranteed? What do you expect?
Amma, do you want to take it up or should I? So normally,
yeah. So this is an understanding that Paysafe will receive the funds, because I know from speaking with Ricardo, he was saying that MyBank, once it's been authenticated or authorized by the payer, it's irrevocable. And I think there's only 3 reasons why an issuing bank could not send the funds. I think it was saying it was illegal, local law, EU law, or there was suspected fraudulent activity.
Exactly.
But otherwise, they have to honor that transaction request, and Paysafe will receive the funds.
Exactly. What I want to clarify here is that our solution is an account-to-account solution. So in an account-to-account solution, the transfer of funds from the payer bank account to the payee bank account are managed by the participating PSP, but by the participating banks. And we, as a solution manager, as I said before, we don't have any visibility on that. As you said, the payer bank that receive a notification that a MyBank transaction has been authorized must execute the credit transfer unless such execution is prohibited by national or international regulation or by an order or an act of a public authority. Okay. So you will, if you have an authorized transaction, you will receive the funds from the buyer bank unless these cases. Now, having said that, in case you have some missing payments, please inform us as soon as possible so that we are aware of it and we can even contact the counterparty to understand why they didn't instruct the payment. And another thing is that usually if you have some merchants that are involved in fraud cases, usually what the payer bank, the buyer bank, what they do, or what they could do, but again, we don't have full visibility on that, is to block the transaction. Okay. So they have their security procedure, the anti-fraud tool, they block the transaction. So this means that the buyer of the fraudster will not be able to finalize the transaction and to authorize the transaction. It may happen that sometimes some bank they don't have this procedure in place, and instead of blocking the MyBank transaction, they block the payment. And this create a mismatch between authorized transactions and payment, okay, received by you. Even here, please inform us as soon as possible.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I think there was also, I think as part of the agreement, or maybe it was the penalties document, Paolo, I think we were talking about it earlier this week. There's a template spreadsheet that to like list out any suspected fraudulent transactions, or as well as transactions that haven't been received, that we received the authorization request for, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, so on that specific subject, so we're working on that. So I confirmed that this document is not on the website. Okay, but we are working on that. So we'll send it to you so that you have a template.
Yeah, I'll then send it to my risk team because I've been speaking with them, and that's a process that they're aware of and do for other payment methods as well. So once you have the template ready, I'll send it to them to ensure. And if they have any questions, I'll loop them in on that process specifically.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
I don't have any other queries. Just I wanted to know how to get the sandbox credentials. Like if you want to play around with your APIs and all, how we can get that one.
Yep. So yeah, Paolo, I think you will create the user on the gateway.
Yeah. So you should send us a registration form, and based on that, we will create a user in the gateway, and then I will send you the indications, so all the details that you can use to send your payment initiation message via the API. It's in the
that's in the portal.
That's in the portal. Yes,
it's in the portal. Okay, I can do that after this.
Yes, the first link is registration form. The second link should be documentation, and the third one should be API portal.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'll send that after this call, so you should get that.
So you can send the form. Yes, so you can send the form for the test and training environment, of course. And then once you're ready to go and you send the self-certification, you will do the same to go live.
Okay, so question on my side. So for the moment, a question to Paolo. So for the moment, they do not even have the account on the documentation portal?
No, they do, yes.
Okay,
they have access to our portal, so they've already started actually, because in the first meeting that we had, Emma asked a lot of questions, so obviously they did check the documents and they read
so this one you have
extensively.
Okay.
So
yeah, I have access to that, so I'll just complete that registration form because I think I've got the operational contact. I think was the second contact information, so I'll put Satem in for that, and I'll submit that. After this.
If you need, actually, yes, Emma, if you need more people to have access to that, I mean, you can just send me an email, email, just to say, okay, so I need to give access to X number of people, and I can do that. That's not a problem.
Okay, Satem, are you able to confirm who else would need access from your side and send their names to me? And then once I do the form, I'll also I'll email yourself, Paolo.
Yeah.
Okay. I think for now you can give to Kranti, Purna.
Okay.
Mahesh. And I think Bitra, someone from DWC also.
Yes.
Bitra.
Yourself, Bitra?
Yes, for now, just me, and probably later I will give you more.
Okay, that's fine. I'll send that email to yourself, Paolo, after this call.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Also, a couple of questions on my side. So concerning this documentation section, so be sure also, I recommend that you also have a look at the testing guide already and to the technical attention points. So the testing guide, of course, is the document that will guide you through the test that you are required to do, and also to the what we will require for your self-certification. As you will see, there are just some tests are required to invoke each API with different cases, success cases, error cases, and this is more meant for you to really understand, to be sure that you really understand the possible error codes and how you have to handle with errors. So basically, as you will see, it's very simple. You will have to. So either the call has succeeded. In that case, you can use the reply, use the response, and do what you continue your process. Or otherwise, you will have to treat it as an error. And it's important that you understand because there are different levels of error codes. The technical attention point is also very important. There is nothing new in this, which you will not find in the online documentation or in the UX guidelines documents here. There is nothing more, nothing new, but it's just a collection of points that we notice that sometimes integrators tend to overlook or forgive. So they are relevant, so it's important that you go through them. And before the certification ends, we will have a call where we go together through this presentation. This is a presentation, in fact. We will go through it and we will check the points. And it's not long. We can really have a look very quickly. It's organized like that. So you have some questions. So for example, show us the payment method selection screen because we want to check that the UX is respected, that you use the MyBank logo in the right way. Is it really optimized also for mobiles? It's all like that. It's organized as a series of questions, of points to check. It's just a few pages, but I think it's important that you have a look even before you start the development because you will have a feeling of the things you might have missed, let's say, looking at the documentation. That's it. That's all I wanted to say for the moment. And also another thing that might worth be mentioning, for the more technical in your team, be aware that we have DDoS protection on ourselves, so the distributed denial of service attack protection on our system. So basically, when you will start the development of the API integration, you will see you have to implement the famous signature. So you will have to upload a certificate on our portal, and you will have to use the corresponding private key to calculate a signature that you add to each of your requests. And this, I would say, it's the only slightly tricky part in the development, but of course you have to address it immediately, otherwise you will not be able to invoke any API. So if you implement the signature wrong and you try to call our API with a wrong signature, 5 times in 3 minutes, 5 times within 3 minutes, but then our server will ban your IP, your calling IP, for 24 hours. So this means that then for 44 hours, you will not be able to invoke your API. So this is just a message when you are still at the beginning, you're still experimenting with the signature. Maybe wait a little bit between a test and the next one. So just don't just shoot API calls one next to the other. Because you may otherwise be banned in this way. If it happens, it's not a problem. You write us, you will get in touch with our supplier, and they can unban your IP. Usually they do it pretty quickly, but just be aware of it.
Just one confirmation. So it's even in the sandbox environment, this logic is there. Like if we
yes. It's even in the sandbox because our supplier told us that they noticed that there are a lot of attempts to invoke this API, even in the test environment. I was really surprised of hearing that, but they told us so. So they wanted to have this in place also in the test environment, yes.
Alberto, just one more thing. Will it be possible to just show one demo kind of a thing, one end-to-end flow? Because I can see in the testing guide it's written like you have a simulator, bank simulator page and all. Will it be possible to showcase it now so that when we play around it, we will be clear what to do?
I'm not sure I understood. You want to see it now, or?
If you have any video, you can share it with us, or if it's possible now showing it, that would be awesome.
But yes, I can even. So, if you give me, how can we do this? Yes, of course, we can do it using the tool that we normally give to the payer PSP who are certified. So let me just do this. Just check a second. Okay, so I can show this. I hope I got the question right. So don't worry about this page. You don't need this, but this is just a tool we have to initiate transactions. So in the documentation you have, particularly in the testing guide, I think we recommend that you initiate your transaction specifying this payer PSP code, so the CT000000. So we recommend that you use this one. So always initiate your test transactions toward this bank. So if you do this, in fact, you will receive the redirection URL of the bank. And this redirection URL will land, in fact, on this page. So this is an emulator of online banking. It's an online banking simulator, let's say. And the good thing is that here you have three. This is all written in the testing guide. Yeah? This is all explained in details in the testing guide. The good thing is that here you have these three links. Sorry, it's in Italian, so you will learn a little bit of Italian also with this project. It's authorized, refuse, or error. So basically, you don't need to have any kind of credential on this because it's just a simulator. If you click authorize, you will authorize the transaction. If you click refuse, you will cancel. So you will emulate the fact that the payer has decided to cancel the transaction. And you can even emulate the situation where the bank decides to put the transaction in error. So you can click any of this, but let's take here you have also the famous, so here you see when we initiated the transaction, we specified 30 minutes, which is the max allowed, by the way. And here you have in this simulator, we show the time remaining to complete the process. So let's click authorized. When I click this, I will first have a confirmation message from the mock bank here, and then the return URL will be invoked, will be requested, let's say. So this is exactly what will happen for real. And then the return URL immediately asks for the status and display this page. So this shows that the let's say simulator of the PSPs has been able to retrieve the status of the transaction, and it was authorized, in fact. So the only thing you have to bring home of all of this is just when you when you initiate the transaction. So in the payment initiate, always indicate the CT000 as a payer PSP. And if you do this, you will receive a redirection URL that will land on the page that we just saw, where you can then complete the transaction as you want. You can emulate all the cases that you need and without having any additional credentials. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah. I just wanted to see this only.
Okay.
That simulator page.
Yep.
And also, I'm checking the testing guide. So this is exactly what is shown in the document. It's on page 4.
Okay.
Nothing else as of now from my side. We just need those sandbox credentials, and we will play around with the APIs, and then we will get more clarity.
Okay. I think what we can do now, if everything is clear and you want to start testing, you can send us the registration form, Emma.
Yeah.
And again, on that form, you will have a space only maybe for 2 people. And if you need more people to have access, just send me an email.
Yeah.
Okay? And I will create the credentials for everyone that you wish. And I would say if you have any questions about testing, you can send it to us via our general inbox. You can send it to us as well. I mean, it's people that you see in this call are the people that you will be working with. Okay. If you prefer general email address, you can send it to info@mybank.edu. Okay. And maybe you can put us in copy.
Perfect. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, is there any other questions, Satam, Vistra, Budcash, anyone else?
I don't have any questions for now. Thanks.
Okay, so what we usually do, we have 2 options here. I mean, either you tell us that you're happy with it and you go on with your testing, or we say that we want to have a weekly, let's say weekly calls, just to be sure that we're on the same page. It's up to you, really. Either we have it done on a weekly basis, or it's really ad hoc based on your request, and we can set up another one. Maybe you can take your time to decide what you wish to do. We are available anyway.
Perfect. Okay, yeah. Satam, would you want to review the documents in a bit more detail before deciding when you'd want to have like weekly catch-ups with the MyBank guys?
Yeah, Emma. Once we are clear with those things, once we have played around with the APIs and all, we will have a lot of clarity. And once we start development, for sure, we will require a weekly call.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so I don't know if it's worth mentioning that next week we will be a little busy the first 3 days of the week, because there is an event at the group level. So it's the EBA day. I don't know if you're aware of it. So most of them will be involved, and so please just forgive us if we are not extremely reactive in answering emails in those days, but we will do our best.
No worries, that's okay. Perfect. Okay.
Okay, well,
talk to you soon then.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate all your help so far.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.